Sage Wanderer here, and welcome to the sheep pen, where no goats are allowed. Today we're going to continue our discussion on addiction. We're going to talk about the role that family demons or familial demons play in the role of addiction. But before we get started, I want to thank all of you who support this channel, whether it's a thumbs up, a kind comment, an email, a checking of your subscription, right? Or especially those of you who make this channel possible through your financial donations. This channel is funded exclusively by viewers, so if you've never been a contributor, please consider going to the links in the description below and becoming a contributor to this channel to help me keep the lights on here and keep this little homestead running for me and Little Man and Jazzy and their family. And please consider supporting this channel. It's only possible because of your support. So, this time of year is a time when we often rub elbows with family members and extended family and people that we talk about all year but don't necessarily see. And so the timing of this series on addiction is not by accident, because it's this time of year when people relapse. The holiday season is often known to trigger depression. You got shorter days, winter temperatures, people are inside more often. The winter time is probably the most difficult time when you're battling addiction, especially when those addictions are many generations deep in your family. There is an argument as to whether alcoholism and drug addiction and sex addiction is genetic, therefore like some kind of biological reason, or is it nurture? Is it because you have witnessed addiction, because addiction is accepted in your family? For whatever reason, I think most people would agree that addiction runs in the family. And you've got the one side saying it's the family setting that causes addiction to be passed on to the next generation, and you've got others that argue that it's literally wired into your genetic code. But what you don't hear mentioned is the concept that it is also demonically inspired and perpetrated upon us by demons who have been working in our family bloodline for centuries. Now, remember, demons are immortal, and humans have a short lifespan. So the demon that afflicts a person might be the same demon that afflicted his parent, his grandparent, his great-great-grandparent. These demons are assigned to us and assigned to our genetic code. They follow the family bloodline. Demons run in the family. And it's very difficult to overcome demonic influence, especially when that demon knows you since birth, knew your parents since birth, knew their parents since birth. That this many generation deep demonic affliction can look like a curse, but it's not really a curse. It's an assignment. You know, C.S. Lewis, who was a famous author. Many of you might know him as the author of The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, the creator of the Narnia universe. And he's most well known for that fantasy fiction, but what a lot of people don't know about C.S. Lewis is he was also a theologian and a religious writer, and a very well-respected one. He wrote another fictional short story called The Screwtape Letters. In this, it's essentially two demons, an overdemon and an underling, discussing this person that they're trying to deceive, this person they're assigned to. And it kind of comes across like they are doctors of some sort, and they're trying to heal this person of their righteousness and encourage the good health of demonic behavior. It's a twisted and interesting tale, but in it is perfectly clear that these immortal or very long lifespan demons have been working your family for generations. Some people refer to this as a generational curse, but actually these demons are assigned to your family, and some are better than others. And the demon of addiction is something that is part of an assignment, more than likely than not, against your family. If you have addiction problems, if you've overcome them or are struggling with them, chances are you've got a brother, a sister, an uncle, an aunt, a parent, a grandparent who also struggled with the same kind of addiction. Now, part of this is mental. If you're raised up in that environment where addiction is explained away or is acceptable or is seen as normal, then it's going to be easy for you to fall into the same patterns. In fact, you'll be encouraged to fall into the same patterns. But there is a physical element to it as well. I think it's yet to be discovered, but I do believe there is an addiction gene that's working against you as well, the physical aspect of it. But remember, human beings are a triune being. We are body, mind, and spirit. So the assignment against us, especially when it comes to self-destructive behavior like addiction, is trifold. The enemy comes at us spiritually, mentally, and physically to try to destroy us. And the response to this has to also be mind, body, and spirit in nature. So how do you break the mental aspect of this? Well, don't be afraid to walk away from family members who drag you down and reintroduce you back into that world of addiction. Don't be afraid to stand up to them. Don't be afraid to make boundaries. The physical element of addiction, about the only way to combat that is to never go down that road to begin with. If you're a young person and you have people in your family, in your extended family who have addiction issues, never tempt fate, right? Don't ever start to begin with. And that's one way you can combat things physically. Removing yourself entirely from the influence of family, if that family influence is negative, is another physical way to prevent or fight against addictive behavior. But no one really talks about the spiritual aspect of this. This is why this 3-part series has been about the spiritual aspects of addiction. And family demons or familial demons are really at the core of this. The stuff that worked on your great-grandpa probably worked on your grandpa, probably worked on you, and your father as well, or mother. No respecter of gender here. Addiction is something that everyone can fall prey to. And you have to be careful to recognize it. A part of this really is knowledge, is being aware that there is a spiritual element to this and that it is potentially tied to your family, that addiction does run in the family, whether it's because of nurture, nature, or demonic assignment. And just knowing that can be a good defense, a good place to start to defend yourself from falling into addiction, or as a method and a way of overcoming the addiction. If you don't understand family demons, you'll always continue to fall prey to them. A lot of people who get into addictive cycles where they get clean and sober for a while and then go back to their old ways has to do with them going back around family and friends and other people who feed their addiction. You know, most of us don't experience harmony at family gatherings. There's usually a blow up. There's usually a fight. There's usually friction. This friction can cause somebody who's struggling with addiction to fall right back into their addictive behavior. Sometimes the addiction is even encouraged by family members, seen as not a big deal or okay or something you can deal with. See, this is the voice of the demonic. If you recognize those statements from the earlier videos, that this is the lies the devil tells us. And sometimes those lies come out of the mouth of your own family. And it's because they have the same family demons. You know, people are aware of the idea of guardian angels. And, you know, for every action, there's an opposite reaction, right? It's one of the laws of the universe. So if there are guardian demons, angels rather, then there are also destructive demons who are assigned to us in the very same way. So what are some of the things spiritually you can do to prevent addictive cycles or to overcome addictive cycles you've already fallen into? Well, the number one thing really is prayer. The combat against the demonic through prayer. You have to build an angelic army that equals the demonic army that is assigned against you. If your family is a plethora of addictive personalities, if that addiction is all around you in your family cycle, then you have to build an army of angels that are greater than the army of demons. Just take note in the powerful prayer that I pray, the protection prayer. God, surround us in your ring of fire and hedge of thorns of protection. Lord, send mighty angels of sufficient rank, authority, and number to drive the enemy from our midst. Part of that is to call on God to send more angels. Really, this is a battle of numbers. The more demons assigned to your family, if you've got witchcraft in your family, there's going to be a bunch of demons assigned against you. If you've got addiction in your family, there's going to be a bunch of demons assigned against you. If you've got sex addiction, drug addiction, alcoholism, anger problems, all of these are symptoms of a demonic force of demons that have been levied against you, and they have been probably working in your family for generations and generations. It's not a curse you're stuck with. It's something you can stop, you can break it. One of the main things you have to do is build your army of angels. So how do you do that? Well, there's the prayer, praying for God to send angels into your life. But also, you can collect new angels by doing God's work. See, when you take on the mantle of warfare, spiritual warfare against the enemy, whether you do that spiritually through prayer, whether you do that physically through good works, whether you do that mentally through giving people encouraging words and teaching and preaching, the more that you do, the more that you combat the enemy, the more reinforcements God releases into your life. And this is something that is not taught in the Christian churches, that this is how you become spiritually powerful. You become spiritually powerful by engaging in spiritual warfare on every front, the mental front, the physical front, and the spiritual front through prayer. By becoming an intercessor or a prayer warrior and praying for other people, going to bat for other people. Maybe you might become a drug and alcohol counselor where you're going to bat for other people. You're working on their behalf to free them. When you are actively involved in the battle, maybe you're writing a book on your experience. Maybe you've got a blog or a video channel. Maybe you just take the time to sit down with the next generation and warn them of the dangers. The more that you do, the more angels are assigned to you, the more you can combat that demonic force that is also assigned against you by the enemy. I think angels and demons are something that has been horribly neglected in the discussion in churches. People want to tell people that are struggling with addictions that either their family is cursed, and what are you going to do about that? Right? That's the biggest thing that I see Christians saying to other Christians, which is it's bad because there's no hope in that. They don't give you a way of breaking that curse. You can break those curses through spiritual warfare, but I don't believe they're curses. That implies that God's on board with it in some way. No, they're demonic assignments to destroy you and your family and your offspring for generations to come. And people don't talk about this in churches as much as they should, and they certainly never talk about how you can build an army of defending angels that will combat these evil spirits and drive them from your bloodline forever and end the assignment once and for all. Now, they'll always be lurking. They'll always want to come back. This is why sometimes addictive behavior skips generations. One generation might overcome it, build an army of angels, but fail to pass that on to the next generation, fail to teach their children about the power of spiritual warfare, about the power of doing good deeds, about the power of overcoming the enemy. You see, you have to be always vigilant and on your toes. Even when you think the devil is beat, he's kind of like the characters in some of these slasher movies. You think he's dead, and then he rises up and snatches you, right? You're like, don't turn your back on Jason. He's just going to pop back up. Demons pop back up. They pop back up in your family and through the generations. And so you have to be ever vigilant. You know, I quote a scripture a lot here about how the Bible tells us the devil is like a roaring lion roaming to and fro. And I often leave off the precursor to that statement, which is be ever sober and ever vigilant. Be ever vigilant. Always have your guard up, because the devil's like a roaring lion roaming to and fro, seeking whom he may devour. And devils don't hunt alone. They hunt in packs. If you have a problem with addiction to drugs, alcohol, sex, chances are other people in your family also have had this same issue. And if you're not sober and vigilant in the next generation, they will also be plagued by the same difficulties. So family addiction, it does run in the family. There probably is a genetic component. There's definitely a nurture or lifestyle component. But don't forget, there's also a spiritual component. And I would argue, well, to an exorcist, everything looks like a demon. But I would argue that's the most powerful and difficult to overcome. Because you can't just use the power of your mind to overcome your genetic disposition and to overcome your family issues. Because the devil and his demons are working on your mind constantly. And that's where spiritual warfare comes in. It's really the defense of the mind. It's the defense of your own thinking. When that depression, when that feeling of worthlessness comes in, when that feeling of hopelessness befalls you, when you are tempted to follow in the footsteps of past family members and self-medicate, that is your mind agreeing with the devil. And the devil, that's the devil working on your mind. That's those demons constantly speaking to you. And remember, they impersonate God. They impersonate you. They even speak through other people in your family who will come to you and speak that desperation and that hopelessness into your life. So you have to be ever vigilant. You have to be ever vigilant against it. You have to guard against those that have stinking thinking that try to infect your mind. You have to guard against those demonic voices in your head that speak that despair and hopelessness to you. And you also have to be ever vigilant about how the demonic will deceive you by pretending to be God. Or in some cases, this is why I don't ever encourage dabbling in any of this, but sometimes they'll even impersonate your dead family members, right? If you mess around with the occult or go to a seance, or avoid all of that. You have to be ever vigilant and realize that you're a triune being. You have to have physical self-defenses against addiction by not hanging out with those that are addicted, by not going to those places where that addiction is being operated in. You'll never catch me casually going to a sex party, because I know that's my weak spot, right? I'm a recovering sex addict. Now, I can go to a bar and hang out there because I don't have a predisposition for alcoholism, and I'm not sure how that got broke in my family, because I got a sister and a parent who drank themselves to death, but it was just never had any appeal to me. And maybe that was the prayers of my mother protecting and insulating me against that side of the family that has that alcohol addiction. Never underestimate the power of prayer when it comes to praying for your kids. Never underestimate the extra power you get when your mama and your grandmama are praying for you, when the people at church are praying for you, especially if they're involved in spiritual warfare and they're intercessory prayer warriors. They're going to have a myriad of angels that way outnumber your demons, and they're going to be working on your behalf. That's why you get the extra angels, isn't just to protect you in your work against the devil, but also to employ into the lives of others, to dispatch into the lives of others that defensive mechanism, to silence those demonic voices, to silence those family influences. The Bible tells us not to have a spirit of fear, but of a sound mind. And your mind is always under attack by the enemy, by the demonic. And some of these demons have been fooling your family for generations. But it can stop here. It can stop here by building your army of angels, by being aware that there are demonic family influences that speak through other people and into your own mind. So be ever vigilant, be ever sober, and understand that a family demonic assignment is not a curse. There is no magic way of getting out of it, and you're not stuck with it. You can end the cycle now. You can be the last in a line of people who fought this addiction, but you'll do it through spiritual warfare, by becoming active and joining Christ in his fight against the devil and his demonic works. You can do this by helping other people. You can do this by sharing your voice, by making a YouTube video. You can do this through your prayer. You can even give financially to people who are actively involved in the combat. Maybe you don't have the training, the skills, or the spiritual depth to help other people, but you can also support people who are in that business of helping. And I thank all of you who support this channel as I work to help other people and expose to them the demonic plot of the enemy that sometimes, in many cases, goes many generations deep. I hope that you have overcome the generational assignments against your family. If you haven't, I hope you're in the process of it. I hope it ends right here. I pray that it ends right here, that it doesn't pass on to the next generation. But you have to be ever vigilant. You have to keep up the good fight. You have to be active in spiritual warfare. And then the angelic support will come to you. It will cover you. It will cover you and those around you. It will spread angelic peace throughout your entire family. But it does require that you put your neck on the line and do the work. All right. I hope you enjoyed this. If you're struggling with addiction, I pray that God will send you a host of angels to defend you against these demons that have probably been plaguing your family for generations. If you're a victim of a demonic assignment through your family, it is not the end of the world. In fact, you can stop it at any time through mind, body, and spiritual means. And I think that's the most powerful way to combat the genetic, demonic plot of addiction in your life, is through that mind, body, and spirit. Don't put your body someplace it ought not to be. Guard your thoughts from other sources and become involved in spiritual warfare. And join Christ in his mission to destroy the devil's work. And I'll leave you with this powerful prayer. Lord, surround us in your ring of fire and hedge of thorns of protection. Send mighty angels of sufficient rank, authority, and number to drive the enemy from our midst. Lord, set up a protection and a circle of warring angels around each of us to prevent those family demons from coming back. Lord, to prevent those family demons from continuing. Discourage these demonic attacks through the power of God, through your power, Lord. Release your power and your angelic forces into the lives of these people who are seeking a better way and a better life, and to end this cycle of addiction and affliction in Jesus' name. Amen. We'll see you next time on the Sheep Pen.